you don't want to cut through. Then once you've made your cut across the middle of the abdomen, you can cut down the middle, but when you get to the bottom part of the abdomen, then you want to kind of go to the sides and down, because right under here is the urinary bladder, and you don't want to cut through any part of the urinary bladder or this ligament that is suspending the urinary bladder to the inside of the abdominal wall. So once you get to about where the cat's belly button would be, if you imagine it's kind of like a human, just go to the side and then down. So that'll open up the abdomen, and then you need to cut through the chest. So if you need to cut through some of the muscles, we've been tested on the muscles, so don't worry about preserving them at this point. So I'm just cutting through the muscles here to get to the rib cage. And then you just need to, you can start right below where right about where the sternocleidomastoid muscles are, and just cut your way through the rib cage. So I started doing that. You want to go shallow, because you don't want to cut into the heart or the lungs if possible. So I'm just trying to go shallow. Okay. And then at the bottom of the rib cage is this sheet of muscle called the diaphragm. You just start to see that poking through. And so then you can just separate this out, and you can just kind of take your finger and separate that diaphragm muscle from the bottom of the rib cage. Okay. Separate that to both sides. Avoid splitting this ligament. Okay, you see this ligament between the liver and the inside of the abdominal cavity. Try to preserve that as much as possible. And just go over here, hold on the diaphragm, and then your cat's all open. Okay? I can only do this trick once. Okay, so again, this is the sheet of muscle, the diaphragm. This is just lining the bottom of the rib cage. This is the muscle that lets you breathe. Okay. In the middle, you have the lungs. Okay, this cat's lungs are kind of small. You have the heart in the middle. It's surrounded by this membrane. That's the pericardium. Okay, and this sort of central space between the lungs is called the mediastinum. Okay, and so basically the diaphragm splits the body into the thoracic cavity, which includes the lungs and heart in that mediastinum, and then below the diaphragm is the abdominal pelvic cavity. Okay, and so today, open up your cat, try to orient yourself to the internal anatomy of the cat. This tongue-like organ here is the spleen. This beef and noodle looking stuff in the middle, this is the omentum. Okay, and so you can find the bottom of this and just kind of pull it out. Okay, so it's like a sheet that covers the internal organs. Okay, this part here is called the greater omentum. Where it connects to the organs on the bottom is called the lesser omentum. And the cavity that all these organs are inside is called the omental bursa. Bursa just means like sac, okay, or space. And so all these organs are inside of the omental bursa. This big organ just below the diaphragm is the liver. This organ here is the stomach. Okay. You will find, once you move the omentum to the side, you'll find all the internal organs. So this first part of this is where the small intestine leaves the stomach. This is called the duodenum. And then the middle of the small intestine is called the jejunum. And then you don't need to follow the entire path of the small intestine, but basically what you want to do is then find where the small intestine crashes into the large intestine. Right here. Okay, so this is still small intestine. At this point, this is called the ileum, which is the last section of the small intestine. And it crashes into the large intestine right here. They don't meet end to end. They kind of meet at a T-junction. And this kind of cul-de-sac is the cecum. In humans, we call that the appendix. Okay? And then we have ascending colon, transverse colon, and descending colon on the master list. In general, the first part is the ascending colon when it's going up, then it goes over, that's the transverse colon. When it goes down, that's the descending colon. It may not be perfectly in that orientation, so just try to remember the order. First part is ascending, then transverse, then descending. At the end down here is the rectum, where it comes to an end, and then the anus is the pooper at the backside. Okay? You're going to want to identify some of the ligaments today because those will be things that get broken really easily. So for example, that ligament that I pointed out before, that's the, I need to review this a little bit, but I think this is the falciform ligament between the liver and the diaphragm. Then a lot of them is kind of like the muscles in the neck where you had two structures that the muscle was going between. You could remember what the muscle was just by remembering those two spaces. So for example, the duodenocolic ligament is a ligament between the duodenum and the colon. And the colon is another name for the large intestine. So just look for your duodenum and then the colon. And okay, so here's the colon, here's the duodenum, and that ligament between them. Right here, that's the duodenocolic ligament. Okay, you can find the gastrocolic ligament is between the stomach and the large intestine. So you find the large intestine, find the stomach, and there's the gastrocolic ligament. Okay, so split your cats open, orient yourselves to the major organs, and then start trying to find those ligaments on the master list. If you need any help, come get me.